All right, so my name is Teg Bains. I'm a co-founder. I also work for my company called Linksed Solutions. We're a local managed service provider and IT projects company in Victoria and Vancouver. I think I've been here to every Mac DevOps so far, and just somehow snuck in not talking. So today I want to talk about Microsoft 365 Conditional Access on a Mac with Addigy. I know not everyone's a big Microsoft fan here, I get it, but we're a Microsoft Canadian partner. Being Canadian's a big thing these days, and so our customers want that. So the problem is that we have a construction client who's storing their files in Microsoft 365 SharePoint, and they've given their staff access to these files from their company computers, but they don't want their files be able to be synced on BYOD devices. And the reason is they had an ex-employee who just disappeared. They don't know if he died, whatever happened. He never showed up again, and the files went with that employee. So the client said, how do we prevent BYOD sync? And I said, okay, that's a reasonable thing. So we said, hey, why don't we go and set up conditional access policies in Microsoft Entra ID, formerly known as Azure AD. So SharePoint helps suggest some policies to lock things down, and you get all nitty gritty here, but the gist of it is basically saying the device has to be either marked compliant or has to be somehow attached to Entra ID. So we did that, set it up, and we created a new problem. It worked on Windows computers, but it did not work on macOS. So we are a cross-platform MSP. We treat everybody equally, no big deal. And we said, how do we go and do this? So one option was to use Intune, and I think earlier was discussed how likable Intune is. I didn't want to change MDMs again. I think this is Addigy, our 5th MDM, and we'll just leave it there. So we said, why don't we modify the conditional access policy? So the new thing that Addigy, working with Microsoft, said, hey, we can do compliance based on Addigy's compliance requirements. So you guys heard of CIS, you've heard of the company formerly known as NIST, rest in peace, and you can do your own stuff here. So Addigy is going to send compliance data to Microsoft 365, and that will let us change a conditional access policy to say, hey, can we let this Mac on the SharePoint Online sync system? So to test this, we set up some virtual machines, and we set up a BYD. So the user is it@testmotto.com, it's our Test 365 tenant. And we said, hey, okay, let's pretend this is BYD, and you're going to get this different access. So if you ever use SharePoint with syncing through OneDrive, you're used to logging in, but you probably have not seen this dialog before. It was new to me until we started using this. And it says set up your device to get access. So at this point, the user could enroll their personal device in your work MDM and taste the consequences. But they didn't choose to do that, and they get a little cryptic error message and says its device state unregistered, problem with signing you in. So the customer was happy with this not so great messaging because it taught their employees to stop doing what they're told not to do. And then we said, well, what is how do we test this, make sure it's happy? And you can see up there, there's, we set up all these compliance rules, how to go through it. Once the device became compliant, then we got the happy state of device compliance, and you could synchronize your files. Now it's a very quick talk here about this, but there's a lot of pieces behind the scenes in Addigy and Intune talking to each other, getting an app registration, client secrets, and all that fun stuff. The other thing that was a little bit of a gotcha for here, we do a lot of small businesses, so under 200 employees, you can do Microsoft Business Premium. You can't do that with this. You have to have enterprise E3 licenses for everybody, not just for the people you're trying to prevent, because you don't know who's going to be the BYODer. The other one is your MDM has to be somewhat compliant. I think simple MDM's in there. There's a whole bunch of these out there, and you have to go do the work to go set it up as an Intune Partner Compliance Center. If it's ever used Intune, yeah, enough said. It's fun. So that's my quick talk about that.